How did Amadioha get his powers? You hear different stories. Some say he's the son of Allah, the earth goddess, and Igwe, the sky god. Others say Chukwu created him. There's even one of my favorite tales that says he was a man who was gifted powers by the elementals. There are more stories like this, depending on who you ask. So who's right and who's wrong? What if I told you all of them are right? They all have some elements of truth in them. Let me tell you the true story of how Amadioha got his powers. Hi guys, let me introduce you to StudyGate Canada, the best way to study abroad. Struggling to move abroad or advance your studies at a top university? Feeling lost or overwhelmed by the process? Let StudyGate Canada guide you. StudyGate Canada, created by my husband, a civil engineering master's graduate from the University of British Columbia, one of Canada's top universities, has already helped many others successfully move to Canada and the USA. Now it's your turn. This step-by-step course teaches you how to find scholarships, pick affordable schools, write winning application essays, and much more. It's one of the most complete guides to studying abroad in countries like Canada, the US, and Australia. And here's the best part. As a viewer, you get an exclusive 40% off with the code StudyGate40, plus free private mentorship after securing admission. Just click the link in the description to get started today. Big thanks to StudyGate Canada for sponsoring this segment. Don't miss this opportunity to make your study abroad dreams a reality. Let's get back to the story. Igwe, the sky god, fell in love with the earth goddess, but such a union was forbidden. The other gods wouldn't allow it. The gods that dwelled in the earthly realm were seen as beneath those in the heavens. They were never to mingle with one another, especially in the affairs of the heart. Such an affair between two powerful gods of this realm would destroy the balance. Also, a child from such a union would be too powerful to control. He could move between realms and, even worse, rule the heavens. Impossible. An earth dweller ruling the sky? Impossible. The higher gods thought to themselves. However, Igwe and Allah didn't care. They loved each other and kept their relationship a secret. When Allah became pregnant, she gave birth to a son, naming him Amadioha. However, the boy was too powerful. His powers manifested right from the second he was born. He could control thunder and lightning, earth, fire, and had a thunderous cry. It was only a matter of time before the other gods would discover his existence. Fearful for the life of his child, Igwe gave him the tears of Onwu. These tears would kill any lesser god, but on his son, it would turn him into a mortal and strip him of his powers. Allah cried as Igwe took Amadioha from her. Igwe would travel to the city of Uri, which would later become modern-day Anambra. He disguised himself as a traveler and handed the child to an old couple who had been without a child since their marriage. He begged them to take the child and care for him as their own, as the traveler's life was not one for a child, and his mother had died during childbirth. The couple thanked him and promised to do so. Amadioha grew to become a fine young man. He was strong, wise, respectful, but rebellious and stood against any form of injustice. He had little friends though, as strange things often occurred around him. There were several instances where he got extremely upset. He seemed to gain the strength of 20 men. His voice became thunderous, and it was almost as if he could control the weather. Amadioha always felt lonely and thought he didn't belong in Inri. His parents had told him about the traveler who had dropped him, and he hated him for it. However, he loved his adoptive parents. He also knew he wasn't like everyone else. His emotions sometimes strengthened him. One day, while Amadioha was tending to the chickens in the backyard, he heard a loud scream. It was his mother. He rushed to the front and saw his father lying on the floor, bleeding from his head, and his mother lying by his side, crying. Next to them were 4 men, drunk and laughing at the couple. Amadioha saw red and pounced on them, beating them severely. It was only the cries of his mother that stopped him. Later that evening, Amadioha was arrested and taken to the palace. It turned out that one of the men who had assaulted his parents was the king's cousin. The king looked Amadioha in the eyes and said, "Is it true you beat up 4 men this afternoon, one of which was my cousin?" Amadioha replied, "Yes, your highness. They attacked my aging parents. I didn't know he was your cousin, and even if I did, I don't think I would have changed anything. I always defend my parents' honor regardless of the situation." The king looked at him and smiled. "Brave words, my boy. We need more youths like you who will always stand for justice. I must commend you for standing your ground and defending your parents' honor. You see, my cousin is a fool and a drunken one at that. I heard he struck your parents just for the fun of it. Only a coward would commit such an act. So, he is a coward, a fool, and a drunk. However, an attack on any royalty is an attack on the crown, an offense punishable only by death." Amadioha's eyes widened. He couldn't believe his ears. Who will take care of his parents? He thought. The king continued, "Your case is unique, and I will give you the chance to earn your life back by doing some tasks for the throne." The king was a tyrant and ruled with an iron fist. When he heard of Amadioha attacking his cousin, he wondered who could be stupid enough to lay their hands on royalty. He initially wanted to send some soldiers to kill Amadioha immediately, but his advisors cautioned against such a brutal display of force, so he thought up a more creative way. "You will go into the evil forest and bring me a fang from the great Eke, the sacred python, and the head of an Ajoanu, and the diamond tears of an Adamma." Amadioha was speechless. The king had just sent him on a fool's errand that would surely result in his death. "If you don't return after 20 market days, I'll believe you ran away from your task. In that case, your parents will be stripped of their properties and banished from the land. However, should you return, your sins will be forgiven and given a precious reward from the benevolence of the throne." The next day, Amadioha set out to search for the mythical beasts. He crossed over 7 seas and 7 mountains, never resting. He was determined to save his parents from the king's cruelty. After 10 market days, Amadioha finally reached Eke's lair. He ventured into it, but the great serpent was nowhere to be found. All he saw was a massive heap of bones, the remains of people that had come through before him. How could he tame such a beast when so many had fallen before him? As he was deep in thought, it happened. The ground beneath him shook, and from there, a 50-feet python broke out, its eyes gleaming with fire. It immediately charged at Amadioha, only missing him by a whisker. Amadioha's heart was pounding in his chest. Is this how he dies? His weapons bounced off the snake's skin, leaving not even the slightest scratch. All he could do was dodge the attacks. Just when he thought things couldn't get worse, Eke began to breathe out fire. It caught him by surprise and the blast hit him squarely. He covered his eyes, reopened them, and found out shockingly that he was still alive. Not only that, he wasn't burnt. The great serpent was astonished as well and asked, "Who are you?" He replied, "I am Amadioha." The snake slithered back, then went into a trance state as bright lights shone from its body. When the light dispersed, a beautiful woman dressed in green stood in its place. It was the earth goddess, Allah. She rushed to Amadioha, hugging him, screaming, "My dear boy!" After a while, she explains everything to him. It was like a heavy load lifted from his shoulders. He finally understood why he was the way he was. Amadioha then asked where his father was, but his mother replied that she hadn't heard from him in a while. In fact, no one had heard from the sky gods as the heavens were currently under siege. Ekensu had rallied some demons and gods to attack the sky. The earth gods had decided to look the other way, wanting nothing to do with war. Allah's eyes immediately lit up. Amadioha could be the bridge that united the gods. He could lead the head gods as one of their own to save the heavens. If Ekwesu succeeded, it was only a matter of time before he turned his sights downward. Amadioha rejected the idea. He wanted nothing to do with the gods, nor could he control his powers. Plus, his mind was preoccupied with saving his adopted parents. He narrated the story of the king and the tasks he had to complete. Allah smiled and told him she could help him. Eke is my pet. I'll have it give you one of its fangs. About your powers, Eke will take you to see Alusi Nije, the elementals. They'll help you restore your powers and save your parents faster. After this, she faded away, saying, Farewell, my precious child. Eke reappeared and spat out a fang. It was massive, but as soon as Amadioha touched it, it shrank, and he put it back in his satchel. The great snake opened its massive jaws and said, Get in. Amadioha climbed into its mouth, noticing that the lost fang had completely regenerated just as its jaws snapped shut. Eke burrowed through the earth at great speed, arriving at a spiritual realm where Amadioha disembarked from its mouth. Amadioha suddenly heard three voices say, We've been expecting you. It was the elementals. Come, child, for your destiny awaits. The Alusi J said, Take this necklace. It will restore a fraction of your power and grant you full control. However, you remain immortal. Your body won't last long, as no mortal should wield such a power. Amadioha took the necklace and wore it without hesitation. Your thunderous voice alone will make creatures obey your command. With his powers, gathering the head of an Ajoanu and the diamond tears of an Adama was easy. He could control lightning and thunder. 15 market days had passed and his task was now complete. He arrived in the village and went straight to the king's palace. The king was shocked to see him. How are you here? He asked. Then immediately regained his composure. He looked afraid of Amadioha. I have fulfilled my duty. Here's everything you asked for. As soon as the fang touched the ground, it grew back to its original massive size. The king was silent and looked at Amadioha. I want nothing else from you, your highness, but my family and I be left in peace, Amadioha said and proceeded to leave the palace. He rushed home, hoping to see his parents come out to greet him. The stories he had to tell them, he couldn't wait. However, what his eyes saw was nothing but his nightmares come to life. His parents' house was burned to the ground, and there were 2 marked graves at the front of the yard. Amadioha sank to his knees. No, it couldn't be. He must be dreaming. Just then, an old woman passing by came to console him. Take heart, Amadioha. What is done is done. Only Chuko can undo this wrong done to you. The king's cousin and his friends came here with some guards, killed and burnt down your house almost as soon as you left the village. Amadioha's eyes blazed with fury. Meanwhile, in the king's palace, the king is furious. That boy is back. He is no ordinary human. Why did I even have his parents killed? What's got into me? It's no worry. I'll have my guards make him suffer the same fate, he thought to himself just before he heard a loud noise. Lightning struck the palace. Behold was Amadioha, high up in the sky. King Okonkwo, you have committed crimes against humanity, abused your power, and brought great suffering upon your subjects. You have been weighed, measured, and found wanting for these transgressions. Death and eternal damnation is the only penance for your crimes, roared Amadioha with a thunderous voice. The king screamed as bolts of lightning struck between him and his household. After the dust had settled, Amadioha regained his composure. His body felt like a million pins were stabbing him. So this is what the elementals had warned him about. His body took on an almost pale complexion. He thought to himself, what now? His parents were gone and he was dying. Unless, he remembered the old woman's words, only Chuku can undo this wrong done to you. He could have Chuku bring his parents back. Now he just had to save the heavens. He yelled and summoned Eke. When the great serpent came, Amadioha commanded, Take me to Allah. Amadioha reunited with his mother. She summoned the other earth gods. There was merriment as he was the savior they had been waiting for. We march the heavens to liberate our brothers and sisters and earn rightful place as their equals. The battle was fierce. Ekwensu and his men had almost broken through to the main castle in the skies. Many gods, including Igwe, have been captured and served as a power source for the demons. Amadioha and the earth gods flanked the oppressors, destroying demons in their path and freeing the captives. Ekwensu tried to flee, but Amadioha had none of it and chased him down. When he cornered him, the trickster spoke. "Why do you pursue me so hard? Have I wronged you in the past? You oppress the innocent and take advantage of the weak, and for that you must pay for your crimes." Amadioha roared. Ekwensu laughed. "Yes, I do all these things, but that's the nature of the gods. Don't you think it's a coincidence that you're here? Who do you think put the thought in the head of the king's cousin to attack your parents? Who do you think asked the king to send you on a fool's errand? Who do you think had them killed your parents? Who do you think put it in your head that Chukwu could help bring them back? And they call me the trickster." Allah has doctored your steps up until now. She hopes to use you to further her ambition. Amadioha couldn't believe his ears. He turned and there was his mother. "Yes, Amadioha, I did these things for you. You must understand that I did it to unite the gods, and only you could do it. Plus, don't worry, Chukwu will restore your parents, and it will be as if they never left." Amadioha screamed and his powers were enlarged across the skies. Ekwensu sneaked away in the chaos and the demons dispersed. The heavens were saved, but at what cost? Chukwu thanked Amadioha and how he could repay him. Amadioha only requested that he resurrects his parents and unite the two god kingdoms. Chukwu sighed. "It's sad what happened to your parents. However, resurrecting them comes at a cost. There has to be a balance, which will sacrifice your mortality for them. This would mean becoming a god, and I'd restore your powers fully, but you won't be human, nor will your parents remember you. I'll give them a child that will care for them until their old age, but they must never see you again." With a broken heart, Amadioha accepted these terms. Chukwu restored his powers, and he grew horns on his head. He became the god of thunder and lightning, helping to maintain justice, peace, love, and unity. He never spoke to his earthly parents but watched them from afar. He never talked to his godly parents either. So, the story of how Amadioha got his power ends. If you want more stories about African gods, click on the video showing on your screen and remember to like, share, and subscribe.